At first, it was very, very devastating. But given the spiritual message I had at the beginning, it allowed me to come back to what I was sharing with others.
Hello, I'm your host, Dale Cross, and welcome to the first episode of the audio-video podcast Soul Inspire. This is the podcast that will feature spiritually awakened souls to help your own soul on your own unique spiritual journey. And on this first episode, it is my great pleasure to interview spiritual author and teacher Bob Malavi. Now, he has an amazing book, and you can see it right here. It's called Pure Happiness, Your Guide to Inner Freedom. And in his speaking engagements, he shares with people how he has gone through a dark night of the soul, which includes being half blind with a brain tumor larger than the size of a golf ball. That is very hardcore. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dale. It's glad to be here.
The pleasure is mine as well. Bob, let's start off by me asking you, how do you help others with their freedom, given the rare physical situation you went through, and being one of the survivors of what was considered to be the largest brain tumor in Vancouver up until that point, and probably still, according to the top oncologist?
Yes, well, thanks for having me on your show again, Dale. It's a pleasure to be here. And you know, this is one of the main stories I share with people with the brain. So it's a great start off, because not many people are able to survive when they have gone through such a extensive process from what the oncologists were telling me. And I went through quite a challenging ordeal, you could say, and it took out a lot of different ways of looking at life, not literally but also physically, after I went through this major brain tumor. And it was a very big shock because at first, when I got the brain tumor, it was considered that it was going to be repairable, and it was in the right places in the brain. But afterwards, it was a different story. And that's what I share with people around the community, around and extending beyond that, so people can start to realize for themselves what can help them from a deeper level of understanding. Fantastic.
Now, Bob, what would you say is the main message behind this whole journey you've been on? What's the main message that you can share with people as a result of you going through this indeed very, very dark night of the soul, and has led you to be now not only a survivor but a thriver? I like the word thriver. Mm-hmm. That is great. So, Bob, what is the main message behind this?
You know, it's really to encourage people, their families, the people around the communities, and especially during this time with the pandemic and things like this with the virus. And so they're not, a lot of times they're not often able to find out what to do, even in a very spiritual level of understanding. It brings in a lot of confusion because they see what's going on out there. They see all the pain and so on and so forth. And so the message I come through with this is, it's just coming back to your heart, just expanding on it. I know a number of people these days are at least beginning to understand, and they start to realize, I'm out of options now because there's so much going on the outside. How do I get on the inside? So these like simple meditations, these simple breaths, these simple ways to expand on different people are a start to people to say, okay, well, I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to go into it a little bit deeper. Before I thought it was, I got too many other things to do, so I'm going to do this. But now it's almost like all options are off the table, and they need to do something from a deeper level of understanding. So this is what my message is about.
Fantastic. And tell us, what has life been like after all of this for you?
It's been very engaging. So, and also when you say, how's life been after all of this? So after all of this, part of it, the first few years after the surgery and all that, it wasn't all that easy. There was a lot of lots and lots of challenges. Couldn't read, and I was, as you know, as you were mentioning at the very beginning, I was an author as well, so I couldn't read. The brain wouldn't be able to pick up the words. My eyesight was 50%.
Wow.
So all these kinds of challenges were happening, and it was a roller coaster ride, but at the same time, from a deeper perspective, it allowed me to be vulnerable to whatever was about to come through. Because at that point, where one is at a point where they're lost, they're stuck, they don't know who to call on. Maybe like in my case, they have a very limited family, or they're outside of the city. So it just brings in more and more so-called challenges. And so at first it was very, very devastating. But given the spiritual message I had at the beginning, it allowed me to come back to what I was sharing with others and using that for myself. So it was push comes to shove in a certain way to see, can this get through? And the more I went into it, then I realized that there's a higher level of consciousness. There's someone way up there who's supporting all of us, not just me, all of us. Right. And so when that starts to become more recognized, then you could say grace comes through. You could say the heart starts to open up again. So all kinds of things are in one's favor when the opening happens, and that could be at any time.
That's beautiful. So you'd say this whole situation that you've been through kind of, don't want to use the word force, but I guess kind of pushed you to go deeper. Would you say that, Bob?
That is perfect. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what happened.
Okay. Wow. And I mean, just picking up from your energy, and I know the audience will agree with me when they see this, I feel I can't even tell that you've gone through all of this. It seems like you're in a very transcendent state, or a very good place in your life. Would you say you're in a very good place? In fact, a better place spiritually than you were before that situation happened? Like now that you're much deeper, you've been pushed to go more deeper?
Absolutely, Dale. And it's the same sort of message from some of the spiritual people like Eckhart Tolle or Gangaji or Gandhi, or not Gandhi, but Gangaji or
Gangaji. Right.
Gangaji, yeah, that's right. So well, and they give the similar message in transcending through, but with all of them, they wouldn't have. Even Eckhart Tolle himself shared a story with, he more than likely wouldn't have been a spiritual leader if he hadn't gone through those challenges.
Right.
So at the beginning, it's difficult because a lot of us, and in this planet, we're dealt with a human body, right? That's right. And so when we come into spirituality, it's how deeper can we go into the truth and less on the human body. I mean, that will still function and that will still continue on, but then the focus is more feeling right when there's a pull from the heart going, come this way, whispering back to you. So you're just being invited to come into something deeper. And so that's what was whispering to me as I was kind of going through the latter stages.
Beautiful, Bob. So it seems like it's possible to be pushed. I don't know, I like to use the word pushed more than the word force, is pushed into a situation where we go deeper from a state of grace. That would be one way. It just seems like the majority of people, when life is going well and they're caught up in the materialism of the world, it almost seems like they have to go through some type of suffering before they're even open to go deeper. Would you say that's the case?
Yes, and then that's another area where we have conversations on the spiritual level, where it's like, does one need to suffer necessarily to, overcome or transcend into awareness or awakening, or whichever that is? And the answer is yes and no. It depends where that individual is at that point in time. So if someone is just completely which is very rare, but completely or very close to being not identified with the ego. And that's a quick way to kind of transcend through the whole process.
And then, so it is possible, I'm certain there have been souls that have been maybe rare, but I think there have been some souls where they got a chance to skip the suffering that they would have gone through, because they were in that state of grace, and through the grace they were able to move into this deep state of stillness that Eckhart Tolle, people like Muji and yourself talk quite a bit about, the going deeper into a state of complete stillness. And I totally agree with you that it seems like quite a number, or maybe the majority of people, it seems like suffering is their road to get there. And I'm always happy to hear that it is possible to skip out on that suffering if you're ready to just drop it all now and go straight there with your ego. Maybe people, in fact, people don't need to go through some of the levels of suffering even that you've gone through. But it does seem like quite a few people seem to need that for their soul's evolution, simply because they're not ready. They're not ready to go deeper. So the body gets them ready through some sort of pain. I'm glad that grace is another option that people have. Okay, so now I know you've given many courses, Bob, over the past few years. Bob, just letting everybody know, Bob teaches some amazing courses, and you'll be able to go to his website. You'll see the website below this video on YouTube. You'll also see the purehappiness.com, which is Bob's website, and you'll see that below the screen here, or on the screen here as well. And you can enroll in some of Bob's courses by going there and signing up. Now, could you please tell us a little bit about, in some of these courses you've given, I understand that there is one thing that you call the triangle effect. There's a process, I guess, if you will, or an exercise. Could you tell us a little bit about that, the triangle effect?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this has come through to me in its own way, and sometimes language is hard to express what I've done through the triangle effect, but in a very concise way, or in a way that people can relate to, and it's not confusing, it's very easy. I share with individuals that I will be helping you through your journey directly, and it starts from, sometimes I say, Aristotle to Zen. So everything that you need to know and beyond.
Nice.
So what does this mean? It's essentially saying you can go through books and books and books and materials, you can study it, you can philosophize it, you can talk with a lot of people, what I do, and it's just like an invitation for anybody. It's the simplest way, because it's gone through the process of what I went through with the brain, with everything else that you were sharing. They could test it out for themselves to see how direct it is. And it picks up a lot of the messages from ancient wisdom. So it'll either be Aristotle, Jesus, Buddha, and the quotes that they share with us is so impactful. And sometimes the question comes up, well, if it's that impactful, or if it's giving us the truth, how come we're not able to read through it ourselves and get an understanding?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that brings another question, which is, well, the mind picks that up and reinterprets it in that way.
Okay.
And so that's one way to share that message. But just to give you a quick again on the triangle effect. Mm-hmm. Very, very simple. I just put it on a post, so it's just, you could put it on a napkin illustration. The triangle effect is happiness, goes into spirituality, and it goes into freedom. The glue with all of that is love.
Right.
Not the mainstream love that people normally talk about, but the true love that some of the spiritual pundits move into. So this whole triangle, everything, when there's a conversation with individuals, and this is what I share in the courses and everything like that, we come back into this triangle effect so that they can experience this for themselves. There's very, very limited reason for moving into confusion. And even if there is one, it just slowly moves into the triangle effect, because they know just the basics there. So it just keeps everything in harmony.
Nice. I love that. Great. Now, Bob, what kind of examples can you provide with respect to how your brain is currently working? Let's get back to that. I'm curious, because I just love how you've even with this brain injury, you've really managed to transcend this, and you're really a thriver. You're a thriver as opposed to just a survivor. I mean, there's lots of survivors, but you're a thriver. So what kind of examples can you provide with respect to how your brain is currently working? I'm curious.
Yes. And I can describe that in a variety of levels, but let's start with one, because this could go on for an hour in itself.
Right.
But the survivor part is essentially the cognition part of what I'm going through is always challenging me on the brain, because very basics like my name or talking about different things that are so simple for me, they don't often apply.
Okay.
Basic maths, basic math, whereas before I was a calculus expert, I used to go to university and everything like that. Now it's 4 times 7, very challenging. So many things in the brain was, just like moved all over the place, shaken all around, and still is. So it could create chaos for a lot of people. Just that alone, and all the things that were so important for them no longer would apply, given the circumstances, but no longer would apply for them to be able to do the day-to-day routine that they were used to doing. So in any of those cases, how I share my story is whenever you're in the dumpsters, and for good reason, on a surface level, for good reason, if that individual is feeling very stressed, frustrated, they're trying their best, but it's still going down and down. All we need to do is the basics, which is like we were talking about earlier, is just, sitting and breathing and being conscious. And again, basics, conscious, and just giving it a little bit of a rest. And so whatever happens, consciousness, the higher level of understanding or the wisdom is the one that takes care of all of this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love that. So as an author, you've had many books sold even in the West End of Vancouver, because I know you're a local author in Vancouver, but now you've branched out on Amazon. Tell me a bit about that.
Oh yes, absolutely. And many books is one book, but yeah, many of them were sold.
Yes.
So
amazing.
Thank you. We had a lot of good responses on that, and it was a lot of this that I share with you, the book as well. It's all about creativity. So it wasn't going through a pattern necessarily with what successful people done and what the right recipe was, or the if you do this and do this and do that, then you'll make it work. But essentially, I didn't do it that way because for one, the brain wasn't working the same way as other people would. Two, I'm not able to read my own book. Right now, up to a certain point, I'm able to read it, but that's part of the cognition as well. And lastly, it's just essentially, the book was just so doing itself. So I wasn't, again, going through the processing process like what great authors would do, but I was just allowing it to do itself. So for instance, I would go to the beach with a number of books, and just doing something that way sold a number of books just by people having an interest. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't necessarily just for the book itself, it was having a conversation, because a lot of people enjoy books, and then so you start to have a conversation, and people start to open up to other people, and I felt that energy from other people as they were looking at the book, as they were sharing. So that's one reason I'm going for the community centers to do my talks and my teachings from the ancient wisdoms. Those picked up a lot of an audience who really related to that. And my message behind all that and in the book is just to make as many people aware as possible in this short lifetime we have, relatively speaking. Yeah. And in my case, it was really that's another story in itself, but it's just limited. We just whether someone is healthy or not healthy, or very successful or not successful, we just have a limited time in this lifetime. And if we look at it that way, Marcus Aurelius, he says, treat every day as if it was your last day, right? And I know some people may not like that too much just to hear something like that, but if they go deep into it a little bit, then they actually start to enjoy that. They go, wow, this is my last day. And I have a number of friends like this who are, going through their, cancer situation and things like that, and I help where I can help them. And at one point, like I went through, it was a lot of emotion, and they didn't know what to do. They're in just a very painful stage. And so earlier or later, as soon as an individual realizes that they don't have to carry on that baggage with them or the burden with them the whole time. A little bit, yes, there's a little bit of healing required, but if they carry that on with them, it's not good for them. Nobody really benefits from that other than the ego. But if they drop that and they decide grace that you're talking about earlier, Dale, if you just drop that, then you see how alive it feels. Then every day that you walk through it, and every day you say it could be my last, yes, then you could really, really appreciate, the senses, the creatures, the people around you, the love, all of that. So it's worth the experience to go through that.
I like that a lot. I think that's a beautiful thing, to live each day like it's your last day. You're going to get as much juice out of that day as you can. So I think it's a very positive thing. Right. So as you said, some people look at that and they go, oh, that sounds, oh my gosh, my last day. But if you really go a little deeper, you realize that is a beautiful opportunity to just really appreciate that day, and then in fact appreciate life. So I like what you just said, Bob. Now, would you say, Bob, that your approaches your approaches to life and your suggestions about life, would they be considered somewhat radical? I mean, what do you think? I mean, even that last one, well, I like it. Some people think it's radical. What do you say? Some of your would a lot of the suggestions in your book be considered somewhat radical, do you think?
There's a certain portion that is radical, and it's worth going into what we mean by that. So radical in a true sense of the word, which I would say yes, but not to scare anybody, that kind of radical. It's a radical to say, okay, it's time to wake up from the dream. It's time to see your true nature. It's time to do these things. You know, that kind of radical, I would say, yes, it's definitely a message that I share from that standpoint. Radical, though, like I don't go too far off mainstream when it comes to, let's say, sutras or mantras, or going deeper into the deeper wisdom. It doesn't get it because it's the same message, so it's not really that radical, but it does go deeper. So the understanding that it's available for anyone, they could understand it as they go deeper, as they go up the higher levels of vibration. They can see the world different as they're going through those different stages. So when it's there, it's absolutely true for them, and there's no denying it. It's so obvious. It's almost like it's obvious that I am conscious, but that's about the only thing I know 100% for sure. That goes into a different conversation.
Right.
But that is a way for people to kind of look, well, what is true, what is not true, what is radical, what is not radical, all those things. And so it depends on the individual, but it's just coming back to the truth. Is my truth telling me this? And maybe it's radical because there's a number of things I share that a lot of people are going, I don't know, Bob, you got me, you know, I was believing with you all the stuff that you're saying, I really got it, but then you came up with something just completely off the cuff.
Wow.
And I say, yes, if you're open to it, we will talk a bit more. And if it's still off the cuff, then that's fantastic. I would say keep on. If your heart is telling you to do this, then continue to go on with that. I just offer the suggestions that help from a deep way as well.
Gotcha. So maybe we could, instead of saying radical, we could recharacterize your messages in the book as simple yet profound. Do you like that idea?
Oh, could be that too. That could be fantastic.
Because I think the message is very simple, yet very profound. Okay, well, tell us a little bit more about the book. Okay, so you've got, here it is, everybody, once again, Pure Happiness. I encourage everybody to go to Amazon and buy this, and I will have a link for everybody to do that. This book is amazing, and it'll really transform your life. I really, really believe that, which is why I have Bob as a guest on today's show. Bob, tell us a little bit more about this book. What inspired you to write this book in the first place? Because you started this book a number of years ago, even before you had the brain tumor. Is that correct?
That is correct, Dale. Yeah. So what inspired me was from long ago, because I've been reading books, and I was an avid book reader in the past. And the reading I had done was specifically for helping people. And a lot of that moved more and more towards the spiritual side of things. So, and then, you know, it took, I think in the last 5 years or so, when really books really exploded, people were able to, it was easier to go through the publishers and this than, you know, go through a lot of situations like that. But this, back in the 5-10 years ago, it was the last stages of my book. And so it's, as you're saying too, it's just such a small book, but it goes very, very deep. So for someone who's just wants to take it on the go, they could just open up a word or a quote, because it's full of quotes, like we're talking about earlier with Aristotle, or Zen masters. It picks up a lot of that, so it complements them in such a way so that people can kind of get attuned to the message from the bigger picture, and also pick up quotes from all these ancient people.
Right.
And this also creates creativity as well, and it points to the areas that are very high vibration or very conscious to kind of it's sometimes I call it a heart-to-heart level of messaging, so people can kind of relate to that. There's some a little bit of my raw comedy in there as well. Some people may take that, some
nice.
not, right? So
I don't know if you knew, but lighthearted, right?
Well, yeah, no, sure. That's always important during these these times. And so it's lighthearted, and the other thing that connects with the lightheartedness, which I felt was very important from when I was back as a kid, was music. And so music, there's a lot of quotes on various musicians, famous musicians, and they all blend in together as well. So someone could pick up the book and capture all these other areas in one small book and come back to it a number of times. And this was the way it was done for me. Now, I don't really say I did this, right? This was either some people will say channeled, or some people gone through consciousness. And a lot of this book as well, I was getting a lot of help from Kathy in Vancouver, who was helping me. She had some spiritual knowledge as well. So with all these different things that were going on, and especially during the latter part, where I was barely able to share my own book and my wording, there's these, you can call them miracles or magic, or there's different, but it came through on its own, and with almost a shoestring budget to get up, because there was nothing there to kind of put it together. But so that energy, yeah, a number of people say the energy in the book can be felt through those emotions, through the everything that has gone through the blood, sweat, and tears, but the heart and the all of that which came through.
Yes, I could feel that. I could feel that. You know what, Bob? What I would like to ask you to wind things up here is, how do other spiritual practices relate to what you were doing? Curious.
Well, there's a variety of them, and I can't speak for all of them, but just on the basic level, the different practices are, there's some that are different, but the ones I find that really resonate and help a lot of people who are even starting either their spiritual practices, or they've gone through many years of going through spiritual practicing. The one thing that is good news is, if one is willing to go a little bit into the message, they will start to realize that they're giving the same message. Right? So from the true message. So a lot of, like, even the Bible, and whether you're spiritual or not, or you'll see that there's a similarity, there's a similar strain, a message that comes through all of us, because it's coming from a deeper truth.
Right.
And this is coming from, like, if we go into the I say sometimes the word mysticism, but some people are saying, oh, mysticism is like spells and everything like that. But people are recognizing mysticism as truth. Right. So it's not even the religious, sometimes it's the religious things that brought confusion, because they weren't necessarily coming from the truth. So, in Christianity is Gnosticism, for instance, right? So that was the basic truth. But then came Christianity, and then sometimes things were changed around a little bit, and who was taking those. So if you go into the deeper levels and understand those, then you can also take those deeper levels. So like in Buddhism, you'd see Zen, for example. You're going even to the deeper level, and so you get the wisdom from there, and then they all start to bubble up with the same message from all of them.
So would that be like sorry to interrupt you. Would that be like, I'm just really curious, would that be like, for example, with Judaism, you have something called Kabbalah. With Muslim, you have something called the Sufism.
Sufi, correct.
Christianity, Gnosticism. And what was the other one? Well, these are the major religions anyway. They all seem to have a parallel type of branch of mysticism where the religion maybe sort of sprung out of, would you say? Or would you say that?
Oh, yes. And there's
the original teachings
stories
were
behind
more mystical, do you believe? The original teachings were more of a mystical nature. For example, the Kabbalah for the Judaism, the Sufism for the Muslim, and maybe Gnosticism for the Christian.
We got the and on that one, the Upanishads as well, like from India and I mean, these are all like the cores of like those deeper wisdoms through.
And
all
the
that.
Interesting thing is they all seem to have a similar thread, those teachings, don't they?
Yeah,
I noticed
that's correct. Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's going back to the beginning. It makes it easier for someone who is going into the heart. And less, we're so used to thinking through the mind, right? But if we go more into the heart, we can start to pick up the messages that these mystics were sharing with us.
Right.
And then some people will take it because it's more popular these days in the West, in the Western society, is Christianity. So there's always like talks about, well, let's say Jesus did this or he didn't do this, and there's paradoxes and all this stuff. So, and this is with any almost every religion. But if they go deeper and they get a more expansive understanding of what the message is, then they realize, oh, this message is so profound. We're so used to, in books, oh yeah, let's read this book. As we're talking about, I did a number of books in the past, and people flip through, okay, I got it, what's the next one, what's the next one, what's the next, and so we're just so conditioned to learn that way. And the faster we do things, it seems that we're ahead of the game. But when we go into more spiritual understanding, we realize that could be the opposite. The more we take our time, the more we can understand and give ourselves patience. And that patience can open up more love. That patience can open up more wisdom. That patience would open up to our true nature, our true understanding. And, here's the big thing about all of this that we're talking about, is that why do we even do this? Not to just feel better, or not to feel more spiritual, or not, these are all really good and they have their place and they make us, be able to deal with life and things like that. But really the teachings behind all of this is to wake us up from the mind, or wake us up. I mean, this is what Mooji or Eckhart, whoever we talk about, they are guiding us to that position, that zenith of spirituality, if you will, where everything drops, it dissolves, and you are in your true place. So that's where the great messages come from.
Gotcha. That all resonates with me very, very much. Now, all of this stuff sounds great, and what I'd love to hear from you is, okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. No, I'm just joking. How much do you charge, and do you offer large presentations? Because I'm sure people want to connect with your work, because you've got such an amazing story. As everybody in the audience here has heard, you have such an amazing story, and you've definitely come to a point in your soul's evolution where you have transcended and you are thriving. And I can tell just from your energy, Bob, you are a very, very happy soul. Yes, you're a very happy soul.
Well, thank you. We're all happy souls in some way, I would say, right?
At the deepest level.
At the deepest level.
When people, it seems like a lot of people need to wake up, when we awaken, then we can have that inner happiness or inner joy. Right? It's not based on external I think it's easy for humans to be happy when everything is going well. However, that's not the type of happiness that Bob and I, of course, are talking about. We're talking about that very deep joy, that inner peace, that peace that passeth all understanding, as the Bible says, right? Which is not a religious principle, but it's a spiritual principle. And it seems like people need to, in order to sustain being happy when they're going through some of the things you've been through, not that I wish that on anyone, of course. Like I said, you can skip, Bob and I believe you can skip out on that suffering if you're ready to for the grace right now, and go deeper and just get into the oneness. So that oneness connects you with true happiness, does it not, Bob, as opposed to the external things that people are basing their happiness on, which we know they never last. You know, you could be the most successful person in the world, but tomorrow your job might be gone, or, you know, you might lose your wife, or this, you know, things in life seem to be very transitory. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely, Dale. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I did lose my wife, by the way, way back.
That's right.
Hard, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I didn't mean to say it like
no, not at all. No, that's
I had forgotten that. That's right. You've been through that as well. And yet you have found that inner peace and that inner happiness that is not based on those things. And correct. It seems like am I right? You've let go. You've come to a place where you've let go of attachments to these external things as well. Is that not important as well, right?
Oh, letting go. Yes. I mean, that's a lot of the Buddhist philosophy as well. You know, because attachments and clinging and grasping, all those things create suffering from that level of things. And, you know, getting back to what you were talking about too with the happiness. So on the book, there's a specific reason why I called it pure happiness. And that's why, not just happiness, because happiness is mainstream. And usually that's the first thing in our courses that we talk about. Okay, let's go through the, you know, different stages. And, you know, at the very beginning, it's happiness. What is happiness? And you know, one of the first things is, you know, in pursuit of happiness, you know, which is, you know, even taken, let's say, using the U.S. Constitution, right? Love, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Everyone, and that affected like the whole planet in different ways, right? But if we break those down, the pursuit already has got some gaps in there. Pursuit and happiness already, the way it's defined by so many people, it's more of a mainstream happiness. So it's like, I want to get this, I need to get that, I want to be successful, right? So we spend our whole lives working through this, going through the process. And a lot of times, although it's getting better in the last 5 years because there's so many shocks that have been coming through, it sort of helps people to wake up. But for so many times, it's just kind of a denying of what is truly out there, because as we're going through our traditional life and not taking up too much pure happiness, we sort of get lost, and we lose track more and more and more as a society. So these triggers or these tests are here in this planet to help us come out of the dream. And so whether one is successful, unsuccessful, whether they're even happy in the you know mainstream way of looking at it, whether they're happy or not, whether they're successful or not, it's irrelevant compared to the purity of that, which goes beyond the person with the personality level of experience. It goes into the absolute pure happiness, or the absolute truth of who one is, right? So that's where we start to move into.
Gotcha. Bob, I've really enjoyed talking with you on this podcast, and I just want to remind everybody that they can go to the link to go to Amazon to purchase. Go ahead and purchase this book right now, because you are going to find that this book will really help you on your own individual soul's journey. This book is very, very transformative. And like I said earlier, the message in this is simple yet profound. And I'm really, really grateful to Bob for writing this book, for being inspired to write this book, because I know that it's helped so many people already, and it's going to continue to help so many, many people. Please go underneath the video. You'll see the link there. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, you can also go to the Patreon page. Okay, and you may be listening on iTunes. You can, if the link is not able to be there, you can head over to YouTube and go for the look up Dale Cross or the Soul Inspire podcast. Okay, so it's there. And the other thing is, you can hire Bob, right, Bob? Bob is willing to do presentations. Now, I guess during this time there's no traveling or anything, but Bob can certainly do them on Zoom. Is that right, Bob?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been doing that. You're right. The last number of weeks too. It's been going really well. So if anyone's interested in that, they can participate. They can see what that's like, and if they like it, yeah.
And how did they find that, Bob?
So one of the best ways is even through Facebook. Whenever there's updates coming up, they could go through that way and hook me. We can hook up from that perspective.
Okay, so is that Bob Malavi?
Correct.
So it's BOBMOLAVI, and you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, correct? That's
correct. That is correct.
How they can find you there. And also, don't forget, you can always go over to Bob's website, and you can see that here on this video, purehappiness.com, correct, Bob?
That's correct. Now, that's also going to be getting a facelift from what I understand as well. So, but
okay.
At least it gives you some messages for now on their Pure Happiness.
Okay, well, so you can sign up for Bob's courses on there as well. And you can contact Bob because Bob also does one other thing, don't you, Bob? You do offer kind of spiritual coaching for people as well. I know you've helped a great deal of people with that. So if you're interested in that, head on over to purehappiness.com, enter your name and email address into the contact form, and go ahead and contact Bob. And he can do spiritual coaching. It doesn't matter where you live in the world, because Bob can arrange something with you via Zoom. Is that right, Bob?
That is correct, Dale. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So thank you very much, Bob Malavi. Once again, he's the author of Pure Happiness, and it's your guide to inner freedom. And he has gone through such an incredible journey to evolve his soul. And I know that book or any of the services he offers can truly help you on your soul's journey as well. So thank you very much, Bob. I look forward to having you again sometime on the show.
It was very nice to be on, Dale. Thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated.
So that's it for this first episode of Soul Inspire, the audio-video podcast. Join me again for another episode when I will feature another spiritually awakened soul to help inspire your soul on your own unique spiritual journey. See you again next time. Bye-bye.